Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, the Crypto Hipster, Jamil Hassan, where I bring you founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists, musicians, you name it, all over the world in crypto and blockchain. And today and the summer season, I am bringing to you a new compilation episode. Last year, from seasons 1, 2, and 3, I brought you the Crypto Hipsters Chronicles. And now, from season 4 and 5, without further ado, I bring you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And what that is, what it was last year, and what it is this year, it's a compilation. It's a compilation of 3 or 4 podcasts together as like a montage. And on a certain topic or area of interest in crypto and blockchain, pulling from my podcasts. And now, as we're heading into the summer of 2023, I bring to you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And there's going to be 22 or 23 or 24 around their episodes. And I look forward to you looking forward to it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying my podcasts. And this is going to be a summer treat for everybody. So please sit back, enjoy, and let me know your thoughts. This is Crypto Hipsters Mysticals, episode 16, Social Justice, Diversity, and Inclusion. Far more than just feel-good hype phrases. This Crypto Hipsters Mysticals episode is a compilation of clips from 4 Crypto Hipster podcasts. First, Rob Viglione, who is the co-founder and CEO of Horizen Labs. Second, Diego Lizarazo, who is the director of developer relations at Agoric. Third is Iris Nevins, who is the co-founder and CEO of Umba, Daima. And fourth, Adam English, who is a Web3 keynote speaker and the host of Crypto with English. Enjoy. Looks to me like you're able to mint both fungible and non-fungible tokens, on your platform. So first question around that is, what are the investment security issue, concerns? Like, is it a secure? There's a lot of debate of like whether something's a security, and if it's an illegal security or legal security, and you're minting fungible tokens, doesn't that make it a security and bring you into the conversation about issuing securities?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a deeper debate going on, or not debate, but a deeper issue ongoing right now, in crypto in general, in particular with the SEC and Gensler. I can't pretend to really be an expert on it. We have a great legal team, by the way, that really is analyzing this stuff. I mean, we had, as an example, there was something called a crypto rating council years ago that all of the exchanges like Coinbase used to evaluate projects like ours, like Zen. Is then a security, because they will not list a security for exchange on, or list a security on their exchange. We came up with a rating of a 5. So there's a rating scale of 1 to 5. 1 being you're definitely security, 5 being, well, no way in hell you're security, right? Like, again, a recommendation. We came up with 5. So we came up on par with like a Bitcoin, that we're as far from a security as regulators would think possible. That said, it seems like the SEC now is revisiting just the entire industry, and I don't know. But then, to your point specifically, if tokens are minted on our platform, and some of those tokens are minted in some way, some confluence of governance and economics that makes them a security, what happens to us? I mean, we've launched tokens before, like ApeCoin as an example. We've launched other tokens. And the way we do it is there's a very strict legal process. There's a very strict governance process. The economics have to be done very specifically so that it's not a security that, whether there's, you have to understand that some element of utility or not to this thing. We do things as a company, like very regulatory compliant to US regulations, but that's not to say that, someone else maybe less sophisticated of an organization, or maybe they don't care, they mint something on our platform that might be security. Thus far, the protocols out there, are not being held. Basically, like it's like if someone does something bad with some phone or some other technology you launch or you release, the regulators haven't been going after the company like Apple, like, hey, someone used your phone to commit some crime. So far, that seems to be the case. But again, like, I'm not saying anything definitive because I just don't know. Like, I'm not a lawyer. Our legal team is for sure very conservative and just open. We're willing to work with regulators any way that they think necessary, because we want to be an open book and just make sure we're complying with everything.
How do you see the non-fungible token process right now? Being, if it's efficient or not, if there's some security concerns or not, and how do you think that your ability to launch and mint non-fungible tokens on your platform will help improve the industry reputation and standard?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a really tough question, and it's very much related to the previous one of there's so much that goes on with how you launch something, whether it's a fungible or non-fungible token, in terms of how is it governed, and are you promising some sort of utility that people are going to get based on their investment by purchasing the NFT. All of these things factor into the Howey test and how regulators classify something as a security or not. We try to stay away from that. We try to just be very, like, we're kind of vanilla conservative software company. Yes, we do launch tokens. Yes, so like we really believe in this Web3 thing. We want decentralization and everything like that. But we just make sure that we do it right, and we're just following very strict legal guidelines of how we do anything. We do have some technology that I think will make the industry more transparent, ironically through the channel of privacy, with the zero knowledge proofs and this cryptographic engine. Like, for instance, we have a product called ZK Audit. It's a POC product right now. It's called ZK Audit. It basically uses zero knowledge proofs or cryptographic cryptographic proofs of transactions, digital asset transactions, in a privacy preserving way. But basically, I could verify, like, we were working with Celsius Network, by the way, as a design partner for this product. We never rolled it out with them, but basically their need was, like, we're a C5 platform. We have a lot of digital assets flowing on our platform. We want to give our users some, like, real-time auditability of our reserves, but we still want privacy what we're doing with the money. I mean, privacy in the sense that you don't want the world seeing all of your transaction flows. So we developed this product that basically did zero knowledge proofs and, like, aggregated balances, so you can do proof of reserves without actually seeing any of the transactions. We POC'd it literally a week before we were going to roll it out to market with them. They imploded. It's a very unfortunate situation. But we could actually leverage this technology, integrate it into Token Mint, so that when we could potentially offer a product suite, so that when people do their own fungible or non-fungible token launches, they could have a cryptographic provability of reserves and economics and governance of their token launches. That's it. Like, the industry is still really new. I do believe that we need to be very open and work with regulators so that hopefully we get intelligent regulation at the end of the day. Because, like, none of us want fraud or, like, stupid things to happen in our industry, because it hurts the whole industry. Then you have kind of this big information, like, adverse information effect in the industry, where people just don't trust the industry because you have some bad actors. No one wants that. So I think sensible regulation makes a lot of sense by definition. And the more tools that we can roll out to the market to help end users, customers, the better, right? Let's make this stuff as safe as possible. It'll never be fully safe. It's still experimental. But let's do what we can to actually be good stewards of the industry.
Advocacy. I like that. I like the grassroots. And I want to see, we talked about the Galapagos. I want to visit the Galapagos, right?
Sure.
The third point that you said was that you have all these new developers from emerging countries now who are now being involved and are learning. And how have you seen, and you've been here for a few years, like me, how have you seen the impact of COVID and all that flattened and enabling the emerging country developers to be more involved in the crypto ecosystem? How have you seen that all play out?
Well, I think I've seen it. At the same time, I would have loved to kind of like seen it even more. So clearly, one change was like the entire thing of like going to the office. Like now with having a more remote kind of like way of living, then you see that like these digital nomads are going all over the world. So they are bringing not only like their money, but they are bringing their knowledge. So if let's say in Colombia, like someone goes to Medellin, that last year we had like Cosmoverse there in Medellin. So then they can bring that knowledge and kind of start working with like local communities. So let's say that they spend like 1 year there, then they already have a lot of knowledge that perhaps was not there before. But also kind of like even with developers just working with different companies, like Agoric is a remote first company. So right now, like it took me almost like 2 or 3 months to kind of like meet my manager in person. And we're going to have an offsite to kind of like meet the entire company like at the end of the year. So right now it's much easier for a developer to say like, look, I may be trying to solve local problems in my country, but I still may be working with like a foreign or company that like most of the company is well distributed. So that helps a lot. The other thing is that in many ways that remote work, everyone kind of like knew. A lot of people were like, I've been doing remote work almost the last 10 years, but that doesn't mean that that was kind of like in the mainstream media. A lot of people still had to go to the office. They still had to kind of work with their coworkers that saw 9 to 5 every day. And for a lot of people, it was almost unimaginable, like to say like, hey, I'm going to work with someone that is in the other side of the States, or like that is in Australia or that is in Europe. So now, because like regular people, non-developers, non-tech people are also kind of like living that kind of life, it is almost kind of like more accepted. And I think it's easier for everyone to just start like this type of like involvement. The thing that is still is kind of like something interesting is that you still see some countries and some areas like North America obviously leading like development in crypto, in Web3. And sometimes it would be interesting to see kind of like more effective efforts coming from other places, so sometimes it feels almost like there's lacking like that little step, like additional step to make it work all around, because you still have like a lot of talented people living all over the world, and many times you lack kind of like more projects coming from like different places. So that's something that I would like to see. And in some of like the international conferences that I had last year, that was visible. In one of them, like we had something like 3,000 developers in Colombia, and from Latin America, I think it was only like 30% of all attendees. So that means that most, like 70% of the rest of the attendees were coming from North America, Europe, and perhaps like a couple more regions. So clearly, even if the event was kind of like local, like most of the attendees were still like coming from abroad. So there's still kind of like a lot of work to do there.
Sounds like it. So let's see. You mentioned soft skills, right?
Yeah.
Not just but actually the soft skills. What are some of the most critical soft skills you see necessary now, and who fills those roles?
Well, some of those roles are going to be filled directly by developers, but clearly, if we want Web3 to be successful, that has to become like a joint effort. So like I'm talking about like a full ecosystem. So anyone that has shipped kind of like a big product should already know that having the best solution sometimes is not enough. And to capture the hearts of consumers and users requires more. So we would have to kind of like, we could have like the best possible systems and it's still not enough adoption. So we need kind of like the best designers, marketers, producers, salespeople, managers, etc. So we need them all to have like successful platforms, dApps, and solutions in general. And I think all of them kind of bring like their own soft skills and hard skills too, like their own know-how. But I think especially in Web3, like what I mentioned before, like that was like the need, the curiosity, like, and the need to evolve. That is really going to be incredibly important. And I think also like another role that sometimes, especially like when I'm talking with developers, is not mentioned enough is the investors. And it's because their confidence in different projects is really what is going to allow us to keep improving the technology. So I'm figuring out like these new solutions. But in all, what I'm trying to say is that we need a well-rounded ecosystem. Like developers are going to be at the core effort of Web3 growth, but many more pieces need to work together to turn it all like into like all that potential into a reality.
I remember AP history in high school. That was a fun class. I loved it. Yeah. So I know. Let's talk about specifics, right? You have some projects that you're an incubator too. You have some projects that you're incubating. Could you offer a walkthrough of some of those important highlight projects?
Yes, absolutely. So our first, the first project that we are prioritizing right now is called Tech Misfits. And Tech Misfits is a social networking app for STEAM professionals, organizations, and learners. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And so the idea is, STEAM, even amongst STEAM professionals, right, and organizations, there's a pretty strong kind of awareness of the importance of technology in advancing society and creating opportunity. And there's a lot of different folks that are engaging in different efforts to try to educate the people around them or trying to create opportunity. So the idea is to bring all these folks into one place where they can actually find each other and collaborate and share resources, share information, collaborate on initiatives that help to close the digital divide and increase adoption. At the same time, we also want those people to be able to share what they know with people that are just starting to learn. So we also are going to be bringing people who are learners, people who are learning about tech or developing their tech literacy, for example, onto the app as well. And we're going to be doing educational programming, content, etc. So it's kind of like a mixture between a social media app like Facebook, for example, and an academy. There will be classes, there will be content, there will be, video lessons and so forth. We've done a lot of education in the past. In the last year and a half, we've done over 240 events, and over 30 of those were in real life. And then we've done lots of online calls, meetups, classes, etc. And so we're very familiar with kind of the education space, the event space, the programming space. I also have my experience as an educator. So we're just kind of bringing all of that together within this community. In order to access the app, you have to have an avatar. And so we're releasing the first set of memberships will be these avatars, these digital avatars that represent what a truly diverse tech community could and should look like, or tech industry could and should look like. And it's a beautiful collection. It's taken us over a year to work on this collection because it's so complex. We have different body sizes, different facial features, different skin tones, different genders, etc. So it's like multiple collections in one. And then we plan to release somewhere around 15 to 20,000 of these avatars. And then once you have an avatar, that's your key to unlock the mobile app. Then from there, you can engage, you can join forums, you can create forums, and you can participate in conversations. You can post opportunities, find opportunities, and we'll be adding additional features over time, like the academy section, the classes, the meetings, etc. So that's Tech Misfits, and we're really excited about that because one of the things that I've found in my just kind of time is that I think one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to addressing social justice is too many people trying to do the same thing and not communicating with each other. And it diminishes everyone's efforts across the board, right? Even in one city, for example, you might have 30 different STEAM organizations, and then they're all going after the same resources, right? They're all going after the same grants. They're all going after the same, donations and so forth, right? They'd be able to accomplish a lot more if they were actually communicating with each other and collaborating. I truly, truly believe that. And so that's a part of what we want to facilitate is wide, large scale, industry-wide collaboration. And to facilitate that collaboration through software. So that's Tech Misfit. Another cool thing about it is that once you have the avatars, you have commercial rights to the artwork. So you can use the art to create your own brand or create, derivative art or merchandise or whatever it is. So I think it'll also be really cool to see how everyone that's a part of this community is also using the art to build additional value for the community and for themselves.
I agree. Thank you. And, the mistake of people who are not experts into experts,
Sure.
is a problem. But one of the problems also to find a really good journalist, who is willing to investigate and find and discover the truth. And you interviewed a journalist named Edward Snowden, right? And not many people get to do that. So,
Right.
What are some of the things that you learned from that conversation that aspiring journalists, influencers, thought leaders in Web3 must know about him and about journalism and about your experience with that?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for calling me a journalist. I was fortunate enough to interview a lot of interesting people, and by the way, yourself included. Early last year when you were putting out your numerous scholarship and books, and I think in many ways you have done this as have I. If I was to give advice to an aspiring Web3 crypto journalist, somebody who wants to report on trends in blockchain, cryptocurrency, anything Web3, is that you have to put yourself out there. And that's not something that's very easy or intuitive for a lot of people. So what do I mean about that? You have to either write things and put it out in public, or you have to speak to things and put yourself out there in public. For a lot of people, that's scary because if I put my name out there, if I publish something about myself, people could judge me or people can critique, comment, or say whatever. But that is your currency to, finding and doing something meaningful in this space. So, Jamil, for instance, when I had you on my show last year, you were probably on your 7th or 8th book? I'm thinking it had to have been up there.
3rd or 4th.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, at least for me, it felt like a lot more. But listen, what I knew about you at the time is that you were on Amazon and on LinkedIn and on other platforms. You were putting out your scholarship. You were writing your thoughts. You were putting it into a book, and you were putting it out there. When you put your scholarship out there, other than the fact that, listen, you have the opportunity to share your information with people, but you're also putting yourself out there to be critiqued and judged by experts and non-experts. For a lot of people, that can be very, very scary to say the least. So, because that means this is your opinion and you're standing by it. I would say, for podcasting, it's a similar thing. When you're putting out episodes, when you're interviewing people, such as yourself or anybody else, you have to be aware, you have to be prepared, you have to essentially be well studied, with your material as you go out there. Because listen, other than the fact that it's just a conversation between yourself and a guest, other viewers are looking at this and they're both experts and non-experts. So one of the things you have to be aware of is that when you're speaking, you want to be both sincere and credible when you're speaking out there. Because otherwise, I think if you don't have those two, why would people otherwise want to either listen to you on a podcast or, let's say, read one of your books? So for me, when I first started this about a year ago, I didn't really know much about podcasting or creating content or, understanding how things went viral, all I effectively did was I taught myself how to create a software setup like you of how to live stream. And I said, listen, I'm going to take a swing at this and let me see where this goes. So I kept, at least on a consistent basis, I just kept putting myself out there more and more and more. You know, I had on a weekly basis anywhere from 1 guest to up to 6 guests. So, you know, it was essentially a game of numbers. And as time went on, I would be contacted by conference organizers, you know, Web3 Summit, you know, organizers as well. And you'd be surprised about how many people will see your stuff. Now, listen, at the time, I didn't have anywhere near the crazy amount of numbers that, you know, you and I have seen of other influencers or podcasters out there. But you can never underestimate the value of who is watching your material. And as time went on, a lot of high visible people who I never would have thought would have seen my stuff, because, like, at least in my mind at the time, I'm a little fish in the ocean here. That's how I looked at it. But people talk. So, you know, when either you put something out there, Jamil, or I do, you know, it may not be the CEO of a company necessarily who sees it, but it's going to be their assistant. It's going to be a middle manager. It could be an intern, and they're going to see something interesting, and then they're going to talk about it with everybody else. So the ripples that come from this are far-reaching than you and I could think. And they're a lot more significant, and they can go to places that you or I can't even conceptualize. So, you know, to your question, Edward Snowden, that was something I never expected in my wildest dreams to happen. You know, especially I'm doing this for, at the time, less than a year. And I thought to myself, it's like, listen, award-winning journalists didn't even get to do this. And I'm not saying this to gloat. I'm actually saying this as a motivational piece. Put yourself out there. You will never know as far as how far-reaching your efforts will be. And I would say to anybody, don't think that anything you do in this space doesn't matter. Even if it's small, we all start at zero in many ways. There is a value to the old quote and adage, you know, essentially, you know, keep trying. So in that opportunity in many ways was a result of me, by the way, not being an expert in at least social media or content or publishing, putting myself out there consistently. And as time went on, and you know, there's a lot of serendipity in this, I believe too. And by the way, not just for myself or anybody, but you'll never really understand, at least not until later, where the ripples go.